All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode on What the Sheet. And in today's episode, we are going to finally make the garbage cabinet that I've been talking about. So, what kind of end up being is, as the name implies, a cabinet for garbage bins. So what I have designed here on SketchUp on my laptop is the cabinet itself. So this is the outer shell on the left here, and it's constructed like you would any other cabinet, it's just a single wide piece. It's not multiple doors or anything like that, no drawers on it. And it features kind of all your typical cabinet stuff. So it's got the toe kick here on the bottom. It has your bracing across the back and the top, and then it's got a piece in the center here for a floor support, and then it's got a flat top. And I don't have design in here the actual top because it's going to be made out of this panel here, this pine glue panel from Menards. So that's why I didn't put the top in here, because the one reason I use SketchUp is I can design everything in here, label everything plywood or whatever, and I can highlight it all and it'll give me a cut list. So I didn't want to add the top just because I'm not making it out of plywood, and I basically pre-bought the top, and I just got to trim it down to make it fit. Overall materials list, I bought, instead of buying full sheets, I bought basically half sheets, so 4 foot by 4 foot sheets of plywood. So we have 3 3/4 inch plywood sheets, 1 1/2 inch sheet of plywood, the drawer top, or the cabinet top, which is a 1 by 2 foot or 1 inch by 2 foot by 3 foot slab of pre-glued pine. And then I got some leftover oak boards from another project, and then a 1/4 inch panel for the inside of the door itself. That'll just float in there. The door panel will be the Danish oil. The frame itself will be a Danish oil. But I think what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna paint all of this whole piece in here where the bin's right on black, just because our garbage bins are black. And by painting that, when she opens and closes it, you won't really notice. I'm hoping it'll kind of hide all of this, and that way it'll kind of make it look a little bit nicer. Not that this is ugly or anything, it's just I want it to kind of not be super noticeable that this is just like this big clunky piece of wood here. But that covers basically everything. So all I have now to do is go through with my cut list and my kind of parts layout diagram, and we'll break down all the sheets of plywood into their respective parts. And then once we get everything broken down into kind of the big raw chunks, we'll go back through, and I got to cut out the 2 notches for the toe kicks on the big side pieces. And then trying to think what else I got to do. Oh, the angled cuts for that extra support on the cross members, and then also the cutouts. And once I do all that, I will come back and I'll kind of show you the assembly process for everything. And yeah, this project shouldn't take me more than a couple hours to complete, because it's not overly complicated. The only thing that's going to be a challenge will be the drawer slides. All right, so got everything cut. I still have to do the to cut out the insides on these guys. Actually, you know what? I think we're just gonna leave them because this plywood's actually pretty light. It's not a lot of layers. It's 5 layers plus the 2 veneers on the front and back. So this stuff's pretty light. So I think we'll just leave that. It's not as heavy as I thought. I think if I would have done 3/4 plywood on that, I would have trimmed up the insides. But we're gonna leave it. One less step I got to do. So moving on to this stack. So this stack is the shell of the cabinet. So as you can see, I've already gone through and I've done all my pocket holes and everything. So imagine this is going to be the top of the cabinet. So this will be the part that's sitting on the ground. So I want to have a screw going in here, grab it into the side of the cabinet here. That way, if for whatever reason, you know, my mom goes to move it or the dogs bump into it or when I'm dropping this off and setting it in place, if my last screw is here on both sides or, you know, a good ways up, 3-4 inches up, when I'm moving it, the bottom of this cabinet has nothing securing this bottom corner down, so it has enough space to start flexing. And in reality, with 3/4 inch plywood, the likelihood of it flexing and doing anything like that is pretty low. But just good building practice. Always just, you know, throw an extra screw in. What's 4 extra screws? It's not going to be the end of the world. And like I said, I did the same thing on the top here. So this is the top. This will come in the top corner. Definitely not worried about it flexing or anything like that, because on top of that you'll have the panel surface. And then I've already done my put in my screw holes for the securing the top down. So the back's got its screws set, and then or screw hole set, sorry. And then the side, I got the screw hole set for that as well. So your next steps, what I want to take will be I think we're gonna assemble the main cabinet first. We'll get this all put together, and then once that's together, we can see if we need to make any adjustments with the inside, the trolley piece is what I'm calling it, the big drawer. Just because it's easier to trim those down a little bit here and there than it is to trim, you know, I don't want to trim the outside down. I want to keep this the same. So we'll get this assembled, everything. Well, obviously we won't put the top on. And then once this is done, I'll double check my measurements on the inside of this guy, and we'll start assembling the inside cabinet piece. Alright, so I'm trying to remember where I left off. So what I got done is I put a pocket hole in our cross braces. Remember, these are going to go from the drawer bottom to the door, which I have done here. So they're going to sit like this, and then the top of the door will be up here. So I got these done, and as you see here, I have the door made, or the door face made. I had to rip down some oak plywood or oak boards that I had to get a 1.5 inch wide board because I didn't have any. I didn't want to go to the store to buy any. So I just ripped down a wider piece and then mitered the corners, put a little glue, 2 nails, 1 on each side, and then I cut a rabbet or a rebate on the back side here. That's about a 1/2 inch wide, and it's a 1/4 inch deep. That way I can set the kind of plywood shaker panel inside of it, and then that'll sit roughly flush with the back side here. And then I'm just going to use my Milwaukee stapler and a little bit of glue along the inside edge of the rebate here. Then I'll just go through and I'll put a couple of staples in just to hold this panel piece on. And in most of your cabinet doors, a lot of times they'll cut a groove on the inside of the frame here, and then the panel sits in there and it kind of floats. And the main reason they do it is just because with the changing of the seasons or temperature in the house, your wood frame will grow and it will expand or contract depending on the moisture levels and the heat and all that stuff. So by having that center panel kind of float around, you don't run the risk of, let's say this door panel shrinks for some reason. If this is a tight fit inside the door panel, when it shrinks, the wood's got only so much it can take before it'll start to crack. And sometimes you'll just see like the inner door panel will flex out, or the corners, if it's a miter corner like this, or even like a regular tongue and groove corner, you'll see it start to separate a little bit. And then once the boards go to expand, depending on how bad the separation was, it might actually not go back together. However, in this case, I'm not too worried about the expansion and contraction of the oak or the plywood. The plywood's going to be relatively stable. It's not going to move too much just because of the nature of plywood where you have the cross layers. And the oak, it shouldn't move all that much. It's been sitting at the warehouse, wherever they cut it at the mill. It's been dried. It's been sitting in my garage for a couple weeks. So it's relatively stable. And then at the end of the day, it's going to be stuck in the kitchen where the heat's not going to fluctuate all that much. So what I'm going to do, run a quick bead of glue around. And when I'm doing the glue, I'm actually going to run it on the inside corner. That way, if there is any squeeze out, it should stay relatively inside of the piece. That way I don't have to worry about any squeeze out coming out the top or the front that I have to sand off later. And then once I get this all set up and glued and kind of put together, I'll let this set for an hour or two, and then I'm going to come back through, and by then I should have the rest of this cabinet put together. And we'll sand everything down to I think 120 or 220, I think whatever my sandpaper is that I got laying around here, at least the door frame. And then I also got to cut the top, so I'll cut the top, get that ready to be installed, and once we're to that point, then all it is just a matter of, we're going to paint the inside drawer black along with the support, and then the cabinet kind of shell itself, the door and the top will get a double coat of the Danish oil finish. That way it'll have a little bit of a clear finish versus like a dark, either like a dark walnut, the Kona stain, or any other kind of darker stain that I normally use. This is just going to have kind of a clear finish that ends up being like a more of a golden color when it's all said and done. And the Danish oil has a pretty sturdy finish to it. So once it's on, it acts as almost like a polyurethane and gives it a hardened, almost like a hardened layer to the work piece, which is nice because that means that I don't have to do any extra finishes on this besides the Danish oil. And in the future, if for whatever reason, let's say my mom decides to redo her kitchen and wants a different, let's say she wants her stuff to be a painted finish instead of a light stain finish, it's pretty easy to sand, the top layer of the Danish oil off and then put on a coat of paint. So that's done. So now you can kind of see what the front of the door looks like. There is some kind of little bit of gaps here and there, but once I go over and sand everything and put the finish of Danish oil, you won't really see it that much. And then the drawer pull will go on this side, and that little spot will come out too. And then the little knob handle will go right here, and it's just a single pull knob. Alright, so we got it all put together, got the knob on. I just have the top set on here just for kind of a visual for what it looked like. For the top, this is a pine top, so what I have to do with this is a little rough, so I'm going to go over it with the 220 or whatever, the same sandpaper I'm going to use for the kind of the face of the door. And then I'm going to do probably a 1/4 inch round over all the way around on the top side here. And then I'll just take the sander and round over the corners, at least the front corners. And that way that'll kind of make this less likely to chip out on the top here. And then this will get the Danish oil finish, just like the rest of the outside. So, if I take the top off, set that over here. As you can see, I got the 2 garbage bins that are going to fit in here. They are, I do believe they're 13-gallon garbage bins. So, like I said in the beginning of the video, I do believe is one of these might be used for recycling, the other one for garbage. And in most newer houses, if you have a big enough kitchen, a lot of times these are built into either like your island or your regular kind of cabinetry on the wall. It's kind of the new style, which is nice because it kind of keeps your garbage tucked away, because usually it's kind of hard to find a place for your garbage. So these are really nice features. Unfortunately, my mom's house was built in '46. So it doesn't have this, so I'm making this for it. And you can kind of see kind of how some of the cabinetry went together with a lot of pocket holes. These pocket holes will be for the top. So I have them all pre-drilled for the top, and then I'll probably put like 2 or 3 screws through this front piece here to hold the front of the top down, just in case somebody lifts on it. I want some extra support here, but I have pocket holes on the back side and on the side here. And then I'm going to have to put a brace piece on the back side here to butt up against the wall. And then I'm going to have to attach this to the wall, which is 2 screws. And this is wide enough where I should be able to have no problem getting to 2 different studs. If not, as long as I can get it on at least 1 stud somewhere back here, that should be enough to hold it. Just because, it's not on perfect level ground here, but it'll open, but once it's fully open, there's no garbage in here right now. It's just the drawer and the 2 empty bins. So as you can see, it's already tippy. So I'm going to need to secure it to the wall just so it's not tipping over every time my mom's trying to use it, or if she bumps into it or whatever. But it works. I did have to make some little adjustments on this side to make the drawer slides work. They were a little tight for like the last 6 inches or so. So I just took my planer and just planed the edge of the plywood down. But everything works now. The garbage bins fit perfect. So all I have left to do with this guy is I'm going to take the drawer slides off from the actual drawer part itself, and then I'm going to tape this off, and then I'm still going to paint all the support mechanisms. So the cross braces and the drawer box itself, it's all going to get painted black. The rest of this, so the rest of the door the front and the back side up here, and the whole cabinet itself will get the Danish oil finish along with the top. But that's about it for this video. I'll throw in some B-roll at the end of what this all looks like when it's finished here in my garage, and then what it looks like finished and dropped off at my mom's place in her little kitchen there, with the bins and garbage bags, everything kind of all set up, and you can kind of see what I'm talking about. But that'll conclude this video. If you have any questions on how I made something, how I did something, how I set up the drawer slides, anything like that, leave them in the comments and I will do my best to answer them. Or I can make another video. I'll probably make a video in the future of me doing drawer slides. And I've already got a few more projects lined up, which is good. And yeah, I will see you in the next one. Peace out.